Welcome to another Kings of War Battle Report. Wildcat practice. Undead versus Salamanders. 2,000 points. The scenario was push. Luckily, we do not have an undead player, so that falls to me. So to expose everyone else to fighting against the forces of death. So my undead army is based on Tom Annis's army. So it's 3 troops of Revenant Cavalry, 2 regiments of zombies, 1 regiment of Soul Reaver Cavalry with the boots of striding, Jesse's boots of striding, 2 regiments of Soul Reaver Infantry, 1 with the Staying Stone and the other one with the Chalice of Wrath, a horde of wights, a vampire on Undead Pegasus with the Dwarven Ale, 2 Revenant Kings, 1 with the Blade of Slashing and 1 with the Mace of Crushing, and finally the Wildcat. Craig's Salamander army is the picture of perfect balance. If you'll look at it, it's 2s of everything. I might even call his army the 2s. 2 regiments of primes, 2 regiments of unblooded, 2 regiments of ancients, 2 troops of geckos, 2 hordes of tyrants, 2 battle captains on rhinos, 2 battle captains mounted, 1 with the Blade of Slashing, 1 with the Mace of Crushing, and finally a battle captain with the aura of Pathfinder so that he can set up behind woods and stuff and then march at least 3 of his units through there fairly easily. All right, this is my left flank, and so I'll just kind of go through both sides if I can. On my side, I had a troop of revenants along with one of the Revenant Kings, the Wildcat / Wildfire, as I call him. One of my units of Soul Reaver Infantry. It has 2 tokens, a regiment of zombies, then another regiment of Soul Reaver Infantry. It has another token, and then another unit of zombies. Right in the middle, I had another troop of Revenant Cav, and behind them are the Wights. And posted with their leader point into the woods is my unit of Soul Reaver Cavalry. Opposing them from left to right, Craig had a unit of Salamander Primes and a regiment of Ancients. In between the Ancients and the Salamander Primes, is the aura guy that gives them Pathfinder. And then there was a troop of geckos, and behind them a horde of tyrants. And then I believe those are young bloods, and behind them is a unit of ancients. Also, then the next one is yet another unit of geckos, and behind them another unit of tyrants. And then finally over here there's a unit of young bloods. And over here on my right flank, I had one of my Revenant Kings and a troop of Revenant Cavalry, and plus my vampire on a Pegasus, which is a really cool model that Craig gave me, which I like. Over on his extreme flank, his extreme left, he had 2 of the Rhino Cavalry heroes, and they are angled toward the middle of the line to try to catch me here. He had his tokens. I want to say they were all over on his right flank, right opposite of all my tokens. So maybe there was one over here, but I'd concentrated mine together with some really good infantry units, and I was just hoping I could just sneak across the middle line with them to score the victory. Over here on my left side, Craig moved all 3 of his regiments up flush with the edge of the piece of impassable terrain there, so I could not get a flank. The geckos moved forward just a little bit further than normal, and the tyrants kind of came up the rear. He also had one of his mounted heroes there right behind the Salamander Primes, so I'm sure he's looking for targets of opportunity himself. All right, over here he kind of checkerboarded everything up, basically sent the 2 units of geckos and the unblooded forward, kind of chaff mode. He also had another unit of unblooded up there on the hill as he starts to angle down in here. The tyrants are waiting in the back because they have such a long charge range that and then plus he doesn't want them, in case I chaff them up and waver them, that they should be able to move around. So that's a key point here. Both of his Rhino heroes kind of angled toward the middle of the table, as I would expect, to be able to get some flank charges and stuff off. One of the things that I've learned playing this game is there's some really good pieces of terrain that help your flyers out, and this is one of them. A tower like that on the table is just money in the bank. So you can bring the guy up, hide him behind it, that anything that comes around the corner you can jump on. So you can see I actually put some lines on there to show you kind of my I don't know if it's exact charge arc because I just threw them on the diagram, but it lets me dominate the middle of the table. And while the vampire on Pegasus isn't like a dominant model, but you still don't want to get charged in the flank by it, especially if those Revenant Cav or the Revenant King is charging you from the front as well. So I'm in a good position here to destabilize the middle of Craig's line. So over here I moved my Revenant Cav troop and the Revenant King up on the hill. The Wildcat moved up behind the hedge, and so he could get in position to support the line, maybe with a double charge. Everything else just moved up. The zombies are actually right flush with the edge of that unit of Soul Reapers, and I just couldn't get them to sit on the edge of the terrain there. So over on this side, I really didn't need to move, and the only thing I did move was the vampire on a Pegasus. Everything else, if it did, it just shuffled up just a couple of inches because I had a speed advantage here where I could outcharge him. So I didn't really see any reason to get close enough to be charged myself. And I have to respect the Unbloods because they have wild charge D3. So over here, Craig moved up pretty aggressively with his Youngbloods. They're angling toward, I guess, to prevent me from flying into the side of his army with the Pegasus vampire. The thing is, I don't know. At first, he had moved his geckos upright into the face of my Soul Reaver cavalry, but then backed them up. I'm not sure what exactly happened. Maybe he was just trying to layer so that, if I busted them, then I busted then I would get stopped by the hero. But I mean, I have obviously, you can look from the picture, I have obviously a clear charge path right through the woods because I have boots of striding and into the flank of that unit of Youngbloods. But I think maybe he was setting up an ambush with, I could see it. I could see that, the tyrants are there, both of the rhinos are there, and the hero are there. That maybe he was trying to sucker me in at this point. Okay, in my turn, I really believe in mass charges or well-supported charges. And sometimes when you have a speed or numbers advantage, that is the time to strike. So that is what I do this turn. I sent the vampire into his battle captain on a that's mounted, and I know he's going to die, but that's okay because I'm trying to keep the tyrants from killing me. Over on the right-hand side, I sent the Revenant Cav troop into the Wildcat, and I think the Revenant King by himself just went into the front of that unit of Youngbloods. But I popped the J-boots and went into the flank of the Unblooded with my unit of Soul Reaver Cav, which is, of course, instant death. The Revenant Cav troop took a hindered charge into his geckos, and then finally the Wraiths went ahead and charged the other Youngblood unit in the middle of the table. Here in the middle, I did charge the Whites into the regiment of Unblooded. Right next to them, my zombies went ahead and charged down the hill into his unit of geckos to try to pin them in place. My Revenant Cav troop charged down the hill into the Salamander primes, along with a Wildcat taking a hindered charge through the hedge there into that same unit. I did go ahead and zip the Revenant King out into the Ancients, and the reason why is I'm just trying to keep them from charging into that fight until I kind of isolate it. So it turns out I don't think I did any wounds, but that's not surprising since I only have 3 swings and I'm hindered and their armor's 6. So I don't think that worked out for me as well as I thought it would. So after the dice were rolled, the Soul Reaver cavalry absolutely destroyed the unit of Unblooded, and there was no really doubt in that whole thing. I don't even know why I popped my J-boots to do that because I was going to kill him anyway. So over here on the right-hand side, the Revenant Cav troop does a good job and pins the Wildcat for a turn. My Revenant King, he went ahead and overran toward the unit of Tyrants. My Vampire, I already know he's screwed, but I just had to get him in there because I didn't want the Tyrants to be able to countercharge and maybe get into my unit of Soul Reaver Cav. The unit of Revenant troop, when it did go ahead and kill that unit of geckos. And yes, I know that he has a flank charge into the side of my Soul Reaver Cav, but I saw it, and I just kind of thought maybe I could hold it. I just didn't want and I didn't know what his other moves were this turn, so I just decided to take it. All right, this is just a look down the table after the previous turn so that you can kind of see where everything is in relation to each other. So down on the far end, nothing really happened. I didn't break through any of those units down there, not surprisingly. The zombies, not surprisingly, just wavered the unit of geckos in front of him, and the vampire on a Pegasus just wavered the battle captain, the mounted battle captain right in front of him, and now he is stranded right in the middle of the lines in front of a unit of tyrants, which is never a great place to be. So my charges triggered a savage response. So the battle captain on Rhino charged into the flank of my Soul Reaver cavalry. His Wildcat charged back into the Revenant Cav that had charged him the turn before. His other battle captain hit my Revenant King, who's also my Inspire over on this flank. The Tyrants, of course, slammed into the flank of the Vampire, whose life expectancy is 0. The Ancients go ahead and charges into my troop of Revenant Cavalry. Over here, everything on the back line just countercharged the Revenant Cav troop, the Wildcat, and then the Revenant King. In the middle, his unit of Salamander Primes charged into a unit of zombies, one of the regiments of zombies, and then the Tyrants charged them in the flank. I don't know if Craig had ever faced Soul Reaver infantry before, but getting close to him is never a good thing. So we'll have to see what happens here. Obviously, the zombies are destroyed this turn, and he's able to face the Tyrants toward the unit of Soul Reaver infantry. So after the fight, the Salamanders reform, and not in a good position, right in front of 2 units of Soul Reaver infantry. I was able to hold off with the Revenant King and the over on the other flank. I just was shocked that I was able to hold off as long. But I think a lot of the problems that I have with Salamanders is they hit on 4s for the most of the time, and that is not a good thing because it makes it really hard for them to have a consistent damage output. So over here, everything survived the turn except for the Vampire, which I knew was going to die. So that's no big deal. The Rhino Captain did 5 wounds to the unit of Soul Reaver Knights, which I thought I got off light, let's put it that way. Everything else held because they just have a hard time without a lot of crush to zap through all these Revenant Cav troops with their high armor. On this flank, the Revenant Cav went back into the Wildcat. The Revenant King disengaged from the fight with the Rhino Captain and charged into the Tyrants to protect my flank. And then the Soul Reaver Cav went ahead and went flying into the other Rhino Captain to try to take him out. So over here, everything goes back into the units they've been fighting the whole game. The Soul Reaver infantry one goes into the Salamander Primes, and the other one goes into the unit of Tyrants. The zombies go ahead and countercharge the geckos, and probably going to be the end of the geckos this turn. In the middle, the whites countercharge the battle captain hero that grounded them, and my unit of revenants just countercharge into the ancients to try to hold them in place. Yes, the Soul Reaver infantry do what Soul Reaver infantry do and slaughter their foes and then move a dice 6 inches forward towards the other side of the table, trying to get into scoring position. Over here, the Revenant King does 1 wound to the Tyrants to disorder them, which is the plan. And the Soul Reaver Cav slaughter the Rhino Captain and turn toward the other Rhino Captain, because now my rear is safe because of the disruption to the unit of Tyrants. And in the middle here, the Revenant Cav troop actually does a little bit of damage to the Revenants, to the Ancients, which I was kind of shocked about. In his turn, he destroys the Revenant Cav that's in front of my whites. The other Rhino Captain makes a hindered charge through the woods into the flank of the whites. The Tyrants obviously countercharge the Revenant Captain to get rid of him, and that's it for this side. Over here, the whites just turned to fight the Rhino Captain. He didn't do very much damage, I think only 3, so that was unfortunate. The zombies go ahead and charge into the ancients just to hold them up. The tyrants were kind of stranded there after they killed the Revenant King, and you can see my knights are gone. You go, where did they go? Well, they just ran. I was facing toward the rear. I could have turned around and taken the charge from the tyrants. But since these guys are alive, I just shot off to the other side of the table at max speed so that they couldn't catch me. Over here, the Wildcat did finally kill the Revenant unit, the troop of Revenant cav over there, and they've cleared this area out. All right, over on this flank, the Salamanders totally collapsed this turn. The Wildcat finally kills off that unit of Salamander primes. And right next to them are the Ancients, and I went ahead and made a charge into the Ancients with my Soul Reaver infantry and the Revenant King. They could not kill the Revenant King. They just kept struggling the whole game because, I mean, he has Inspiring and stuff, so that makes it a little hard. And his armor has an armor of 5, so that helps out. The other unit of Soul Reavers just take an angle and start moving toward the middle of the table to try and score. Yeah, you can see that the Soul Reaver infantry is moving toward the flank of the Ancients, and that's not going to be good for them. So this side of the table is pretty much settled out this game, and we'll have to see what the final position was. So yeah, the Soul Reaver infantry just crushed right into the Ancients with their Crush 2 and hitting on 4s, though. And I'd done a little bit of damage with the Revenant King, like 1 or 2, but that was enough. And so that gives me 2 more tokens, and that gives me a grand total of 4. And there's really nothing Craig could stop me from winning the game, and so we just went ahead and called it. So what are my afterthoughts after this battle? The first thing I think of is I probably need to go ahead and base my Undead since I'm decided to play them a little bit. And I started painting them before. One of my friends was using them, and then he decided to stop playing, and so I never finished them. I just got the troops finished, but I never finished the bases. So I'll try to do that and match them up so they don't look so harsh on the tabletop with their black bases. The other thing is it really brings out something that I've said to our group, which is if we're trying to play, in some cases like this, we're all going to the Wildcat tournament, and we're trying to learn. We have to expand our horizons in armies that we face so that you kind of know. And that's exactly what happened to everybody this week when they started facing Undead, because nobody's used to facing them, and nobody's used to the fact that they are a tier 1 army that is very, very deadly. Things you get away with against Kingdoms of Men, maybe Orcs, any of the other ones, you just can't get away with the playing against the Undead. So the Undead still, I know they did a little bit of nerfing. It's still a very powerful army. I mean, you just really always feel like you're in command from the minute you start playing the game. And they are just a fantastic force. The Craig Salamanders, he's got them. They are like the perfectly balanced force of everything. And I really think that what's going to happen in the tournament is they are going to excel at scenario play because of the number of drops, because of the high unit strength, because of having those just single battle captains mounted and the 2 Rhino guys to disrupt enemy formations. I really think that his army will excel at the scenario play, and it's not so much in the sheer killing category, though they have the tyrants, which can absolutely do that. But I think that they will excel just trying to play the game and not trying to get wrapped up in the I need to kill everything on the table mode, because a lot of people play kill and then think about the scenario. Our group, I think pretty much from the beginning now, we kind of come onto the idea, let's play the scenario all the way through and don't worry so much about the losses, because that's the hardest thing transitioning to me from Warhammer over to this game, is the fact that in Warhammer, you lost a unit, you basically lost the game, depending on what the unit was. If it was a key unit, your game was over. It was just a matter of mopping up for the bad guys. In this game, because of the scenario play, it is really a strategy game. And one of the things that I see in these games is what I call the learning of peace trading, which is if you're ever played chess, you know to sacrifice this and that. In this game, I sacrificed my queen, which was my vampire on the Pegasus, to a flank charge from one of the nastiest units in the game. But on the other hand, I held him up for a turn so that unit could not get into the fight. and eliminated at least that amount of points all the way around him in this game, and then preserved my unit as well. So that was a good peace trade, and that's a hard tactic to learn. When you came over from Warhammer, you don't really do that. In this game, you have to do that. If you don't, you will lose every time. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the battle report. I hope Craig learned something about Soul Reaver infantry and cavalry. They are just nasty as crap. My new rule number 6 is if it starts with an R, you need to be aware of it. And that means, Reavers, Reapers, any of those R words are all nasty things. So you really want to be aware of anything that's, even Revenants, because of their tar pit ability in the Undead army. So anyhow, I hope everybody enjoyed the battle report, and we'll see you next week.